Hi everyone, this is Abhishek from ENH iSecure. This presentation describes the integration of DocuSign application with a SailPoint IdentityIQ solution. These are the different use cases for the connecting the application in scope, managing the application accounts, and access. In this slide, we will be discussing on the different agendas for upcoming slides. Introduction to a DocuSign, list of APIs for the DocuSign, DocuSign integrating with a SailPoint, different use cases used in a SailPoint web service connector, a configuring the DocuSign application in a SailPoint, and a different rules used inside a SailPoint web service connector. This is the high-level flow of document distribution for an e-signature, where a sender has a set of documents that they would like to have signed. A sender supplies the name and an email address for each person they want to sign the document and mark the document with a tab, also known as a field or a tax, to indicate where each part should sign or initial. The sender may also choose a let a receiving party free form sign the document. The sender then places the document into a DocuSign system. The DocuSign system then notifies each recipient via supplies email address that they have been asked to sign the document and provide a link to the envelope. When recipient click the link, they will see the document with the DocuSign tabs location specified by the sender, representing where they need to click the sign or initial document. If the sender chooses use free form signing, then the recipient will see the document with a different note letting them know to click the document to sign. When all recipients have clicked on all of their respective DocuSign tabs and added their signature via free form by signing, then document is signed. In this slide, we will be discussing on the integration of the DocuSign application with a SailPoint, where we will be using the get account list, get groups, and a get permission. These are the following APIs which we will be using for fetching the details from the DocuSign application. Once we fetch all the details for provisioning, for creating account, for updating, and the enable and disable, we will be using the create, update, enable, disable APIs. These are the following APIs which are used for the different operations like create, update, delete, and disable. Where the token API we will be using for generating the token for every 5 minutes, which will be used for different application, and a create API need to trigger the API for creating the new account in a DocuSign. Regarding the attributes required for creating the account, we will be showing in the new slide. And the updating API for updating the groups, department, user permission, and also some more attributes for the specific accounts can be done by using this update API. Get list of user API. This API is used to fetch the list of users details of groups, permissions of different accounts. Get list of groups is a list of groups which we need to add the user will be getting from this API. Get list of permission profile will be used to fetch the different permission that need to be assigned to the different user. Enable or disable user API. This user to enable or disable that can be handled by using where the status will be changed to close. So this slide is for the create API details, where we will be getting the context URL. The context or the account ID will be different based on the different environment. And for creating the account, we need to have these are the mandatory fields, where username, the name of the user, email, the user email address, send activation email, the user for which activation email need to be sent, a job title, the user job, a permission profile ID, the ID of the permission, and the permission profile name, the name of the account permission, and the activation access code. This access code provides the user to activate the account. Company, the name of the user company, group list, the group type, the DocuSign group ID to the group, and the name of the group. Created, the email will be sent to the user with the activation code, where the user need to click the link to send the email and need to add the password to the activating the code. Once he click on the activate, then the access code validation tab will be displayed where he need to enter the access code and click on the validate. So after the validating, then his DocuSign e-signature account will be created. In this update API, where for the context URL we will be adding the user ID. The user ID which will specify for which user need to be updated. And for updating the user, we need to have some of the mandatory fields where we will be updating the username, the job title, a permission profile ID and permission profile name, and the company and the group list where the user can add the different groups he can update. And this enable and disable APIs, where disable API is used for disabling the user where his status will be changed to a closed. For disabling the API, we need to have the mandatory attribute, that is a user ID need to be passed, for which the user need to be disabled. And for enabling, once the user is enabled, the status will be changed from close to the activate. So for enabling the user, we will be sending the user ID for which user need to be enabled, that will be inside a context URL. And for enable operation, we need to have the mandatory field send activation email where the user for which activation email need to be sent. And this get list of user API is used basically for fetching the whole list of users which are present from the DocuSign to the SailPoint. The get list of group APIs is used to fetch the groups which need to be required for adding during the account creation or updation. A get list of permission will be fetching the all list of permission from the DocuSign to a SailPoint where we will be using this list of permission while during a creating or updating the user. These are the following use cases which we will be using: a create account operation, update account operation, lever process, mover process, manual enable or disable operation, and the rehire process. So for the create and update operation in a SailPoint, here this diagram explains the workflow for the account creation for update in a DocuSign, where manager or IAM team will log in inside a SailPoint. Only a IAM team or a user manager is allowed to do this step, where once they log in a SailPoint, they would be selecting the quick link from the DocuSign for adding the details and will be displayed in the IAM or user manager only. Then the list of fields to be displayed upon selecting the action should be included in the details required for the account creating or updating. An email notification will be sent to the requester manager to act on the approval. Then this requester will be routed to request manager for approval. Once the approval, then the next provisioning will be performed for the DocuSign application. The user email will be sent to the user, or if a user is not there, then it will be going to the manager for updating the and confirmation for email for the account creation in a DocuSign. This lever process, where in case the user is been separated or like resigned, then the lever process is initiated, where once the aggregation or refresh task is initiated from the IIQ by appropriate requirement met with some specific condition. In case of temporary access, the lever process is triggered once the sunset date, in the sense expiry date, is reached or passed. Once the user notified above end date is 15 days away from the lever process is triggered. Once he reaches to the end, then the date and the access onto the application DocuSign for the user to soft delete and remove effectively from the day of separation. Once the access is removed, then the lever process is completed. So this rehire process basically used for the users which are been removed from the company, or like which are resigned from the company, where the manager or the IAM team will initiate the updating a separation date, in the sense expiration date, for those to rehire. Only the IAM team or a users manager is allowed to do this step, where access extension for the extending the access and the list of fields to be displayed in the selection action should be included, where user ID, first name, last name, these are all the attribute, and the extend separation date need to be added. And an email notification will be sent to a requester manager to act on a approval. If requester will be routed to a requesters manager approval. Once the approved, then changes will be reflected in the IIQ targeted application. If the requestee is rejected this process, then it will be stopped. If the requestee approved, separation date will be updated as per the request. After separation date is updated, all the applications should be enabled depending on the process started. Post provisioning, an email notification and a user manager send the access. Upon reaching the separation date, user access is revoked and a count down the third day. Upon reaching the last date retention period, the Active Directory account, like the application which are related, will be deleted on the end of day. During this retention period, IAM team can initiate the access extension request for any number of time business requirement with a new separation date. The same process is repeated and started from the notification request, manager approval and updated, then notification after provisioning. This diagram showcase for the mover process, where an authorized user whose attributes such as a rank, department, position is changes inside the HR file, which result in updating the following inside the identity attribute: an identity aggregation task load and the daily full information from the HR system, where for a HR system user only. Then IQ will trigger the mover workflow from the existing remove disabled for the user. For enable, then user would then request for the access if need based on the his or her new function, position, department. If the user is existing, then application request should only update the account. Once the mover process is completed, then user or user's immediate supervisor is notified about the completion of this process. In this slide, we will be showcasing the SailPoint web service connector, where we will be having the base URL, a grant type, token URL, client ID, and the client secret key, which need to be passed for a DocuSign application. Where the base URL is used to connect the web service by using a managed system, where this is the example which was showcased, like https demo.url.docusign.net, where the base URL will be different for the different environment, like for the prod, dev and UAT, where the authentication method will be based on the connection required. As if now for the DocuSign we are using the basic authentication. And the grant type will be refresh token, JWT, client and password. So as if now for a DocuSign we will be using the JWT, and the token URL will be the token which is used, and the client ID and the client secret key which will be provided by the DocuSign application, that will be unique for the different environment. And the schema attributes. So this schema attribute name or a values that are required to check the enable status. If a status, the user which has a status equal to active attribute, for that user only the account will be changed as a active, or else it will be showing as a disabled. And the request timeout will be specifying the what time until the request can be performed. So this slide is the screenshot for the connector operation configuration for the specific. So this is the SailPoint web service where we will be having the context URL and the method. So context URL will be differing based on the different operation, and the method like get will be used for only the fetching the details, and post put we will be used for only creating or updating the details. Similarly, we will be adding the header where authorization and the barrier token. So this token will be generated for every 5 minutes. This is handled by using the before operation rule. So regarding this before operation rule, we will be discussing in the upcoming slide. So these are the following examples which I am showcasing, like context URL, where the context URL specifies the based on the operations, and the method like get put post, where get can be used for fetching the details, put and post for updating the details or creating the details, and delete is used for deleting the users, where headers we will be passing what and all details need to be required for getting the token. So these are the authorization token, where this is one of the example which I have showcased. And the body, so the body basically used for using a creating or updating or enable or disable. And the response, once this create or update or fetch, so for the confirmation we will be getting the response for what and all details are updated. If it is a success, then it will be showing a success response. So this slide explains the account aggregation configuration in a SailPoint for a DocuSign application, where we need to add the context URL for the different operation. Based on that, we need to add the method, and the response attribute need to be fetched on the account details, where a schema attribute specifies the attributes which are saved inside a SailPoint, and the attribute path attributes which will be specified the attribute name which you are fetching from the responses, and the root path is the path for the JSON, and the successful response code specifies only when the account is able to fetch all the details. A group aggregation. This slide is for a group aggregation, where it is used to fetch the list of groups which can be added to the account based on the specification, where the group name and the group type and the group ID is required to pass during the account creation, and and for the updation. So the context URL, where it is different from the account aggregation, and the method we will be using a get for fetching the details, and the schema attribute and the attribute path are the details which you are fetching from the DocuSign API and saving inside the SailPoint, and the root path specifies the path of the JSON, and the successful response code specifies the status code of the response. If it is a 200, then the response is successful. Other than 200, it will be showing a status as failed. A permission profile ID group aggregation, where the context URL will be changed from that of other, so and the method will be same as that of getting groups and permission profile ID, and inside the response attribute we will be passing the permission profile ID and permission profile name, which we are fetching from the DocuSign application to a SailPoint. And this screenshot is for the create operation configuration, where we will be adding the context URL and the method setting as a post, and inside a body we will be passing these different attributes like user ID, username, permissions, and groups, and inside the for the header we will be setting by using the before operation rule. This is the update operation configuration. As we can see, inside the context URL we will be passing the user ID which need to be updated, and method will be changed to a put. Rather, for the create it's as a post, and the update body will be the same as that of a create, but here we can update the permissions and we can add the groups for the existing user. For the enable operation configuration, the context URL is as similar that of update, where we will be passing a method as a put, and inside the body we will be passing the send activation email and the username and the last name. So the last name is not the mandatory field, but the send activation email is the mandatory attribute. Disable operation. So this disable operation configuration, where the context URL and the method we need to change as a delete, and for the body we need to pass the user ID for which the disable operation need to be performed. So the disable in the sense the status will be changed to a closed. So these are the following rules which will be using, like before operation rule, after operation rule, before provisioning rule, after provisioning rule, customization rule, and the correlation rule. So this before operation rule will be triggering for every operation, for each operation. So basically this before operation rule will be configured for each operation, where for the current DocuSign we are using as a generating the token, and after operation rule where we are using just for checking the details and the response, and before provisioning rule where we will be this rule is basically triggered for before each operations. So after provisioning rule, once this all operation is completed, provisioning is completed, then it will be coming to a after provisioning rule, where we will be using for generating the email, and the customization rule where this customization rule and the correlation rule will be used during the account aggregation, where the details can be customized based on the requirement. Thank you.